I think you have to do a flip over that.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh, that was a sweet manual. Oh yes. Oh yes. Winning.
Oh.
Big flips.
Come on, give me. It activated right at the last second there.
I should have won that.
I feel like there's something we should be doing right now.
Yeah, playing this motocross game.
Yeah.
Make it so that I can. Oh, you.
You think there's no like hospital recovery time every time I break my neck on this?
Okay, this is weird. You gotta like, you gotta short it,
and then finish line.
You gotta short it, and then do it, and
All right.
You can do it. You can do it. There you go.
Check out this front foot.
No.
Yeah. All right. Leroy Bankins.
Leroy Bankins.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey.
I didn't see you there, neighbor.
Yeah.
Howdy, neighbor.
Thanks for joining us in Stadia.
It's Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Thursday, yeah.
You were watching live at Epiphan. I'm going to shut down Stadia on there. Going to get our intro thing up here.
Very distracted by all of our stuff.
It's hard enough doing the show. You got to think about like actually talking and not having my voice crack. What was it? There we go. Live at Epiphan.
Live at Epiphan.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry, we were a little bit distracted. We're playing, doing some pre-show gameplay.
Yeah.
My name's Cameron. This is George.
I'm George. My stool is tilted.
Your stool. Yeah, but you just tilt your body, tilt your hip.
I need to get my George fat wallet on this side to prop me up square.
What are you keeping all those receipts in your wallet for? All right. Well, today we're talking about Google Stadia.
Google Stadia, which launched last week.
It did launch last week. It launched on Tuesday.
Yes.
And we were still very nervous. We were waiting by the email, waiting for the confirmation for the shipping.
Yeah.
I thought, like, is it actually going to work out? Are we going to get it in time? It was right down to the wire.
It was fine. It was fine. But probably most of you are asking, since when is Live at Epiphan a video game channel, and why are we talking about Stadia? Well, we're going to get into those reasons. But first, the news. Not much to talk about this week, to be honest. But Cameron managed to dig out some of his favorite This Week in China.
My old trope. So, I was going to say YouTubing. Streaming is very popular in China.
Not on the same platform as we have
Not on
here.
the same platform as we have here in North America, but there is another streaming platform. Now, unfortunately, there was another death. So, a streamer in China doing another extreme thing. So this particular content creator likes to climb to the top of very tall buildings and get shots of himself. Even just looking at this picture makes me sick. Just seeing it. It's a big nope on that.
For some reason, Chinese and Russian people seem to love this.
And they're good at it.
I don't know why.
Or mostly good at it.
Maybe they just, I don't know.
Now this gentleman, he was creating this content for his family. So he was living in poverty. He was raising money using the revenue from his videos. He had to pay for some medical bills for his mom. And unfortunately, he had a misstep. So he died during a live stream. I think he had just set his camera up. And then
something happened.
Yeah, something happened. So unfortunately, he's no longer doing it. Now, the thing that is interesting about this particular situation is that the family actually went after that content platform.
Okay.
And there was a Chinese court that has awarded them money. So they didn't find that the platform was entirely responsible for his death.
Right.
Obviously, he does shoulder some of the, He shoulders some of the responsibility for it, but they are actually paying his family a substantial amount of money for this particular accident. And the court has also given some direction to that content creation company to not encourage their
exactly. And I guess it's one of those things, and we're seeing this more and more with really all the live streaming platforms, where it's a question of, there's this big incentive, obviously, to get views and get attention, and people are willing to do these very ridiculous things in order to do that. And at what point is there a limit as to, is it really only on you? I mean, it is, but at the same time, if you're being incentivized to do more and more extreme things for views, the platform kind of maybe have to bear some of that responsibility.
Well, it's a vicious cycle, right? Like you do the extreme thing, you get the views, you get the revenue.
Exactly.
If you're not doing the next highest thing on your next video, you're not going to get as many views, so you got to step it up, raise the bar. But
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, for sure, for sure.
So speaking of unfortunate, your favorite band,
I'd never heard of this band before in my life.
Coldplay.
Yeah.
So Coldplay hit the streaming news this week. I think they're like a band out of the UK, maybe. I'm not sure. They have a few popular songs.
Yeah.
Now they do
If
have
you
a
say
new.
so.
They have a new album that they've released. Now, when you release a new album, you go on tour. That's how you
Usually.
make the money, right? You don't make the money off of t-shirt sales.
No, you make money on touring these days.
Exactly, you make the money off of touring. Now, Coldplay is very conscious about their environmental impact, and they've decided not to tour this album at all, unless they could find a way of doing it entirely carbon neutral. Now, flying all over the world
Is the worst.
Yeah, it's the worst. You're trucking equipment. There's a big movement in the UK right now for flight shaming,
Yes.
right? So it used to be like it was the best. You fly everywhere.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
You get your frequent flyer points, and you're king above men.
Yeah.
But now it's not really seen that way. But Coldplay, what they've decided to do is solve this problem by streaming.
Okay.
So earlier this week, they had a really, really amazing concert that they streamed from Jordan.
Interesting.
So kind of Beatles style on the top rooftop
Right.
of a building. They had this like 360 dolly that was going around them, which was really neat. The challenge, of course, was streaming from such a remote location.
Right.
And then, of course, bringing in all these sources and channels and everything.
But they still did it from Jordan.
Yes.
Did they walk to Jordan?
They still had to fly to Jordan. There's no...
Then what the...
They tried to ride their bikes, but
What was the
it too
point
far.
then?
So I think they're not going to be doing as much touring, right? They're not going to be doing as much travel.
Or they're just greenwashing their tour by claiming they're not
Greenwashing.
touring.
Is that a new...
It's
Did you just coin that?
No, that's
Oh,
a
wow.
legit thing.
I like that.
Yeah, it's to pretend that you're environmentally friendly while really faking it.
Well,
Anyway.
are we going to be taking a boat to ISC in
I'd love to.
February?
Let's do it. Let's live stream it.
Live stream the 3-day journey.
Yeah, I'm down.
As we could, like, we're rowing.
I'm down.
Just rolling
Let's do
all the way
it.
across the
We'll be
ocean.
jacked when we get back.
All right. So today we're talking about Google Stadia.
Yes.
Now, we've kind of played around with some video game streaming before. We touched on Twitch previously, but Google Stadia is a little bit more in our wheelhouse when it comes to the gaming consoles and platforms.
Yeah, so the big question, of course, if for those of you watching who haven't heard, what is Google Stadia? Well, Google Stadia is several things, but primarily, when you quickly break it down, and this was announced back in the summer, and we touched on it back then. Cameron and I both pre-ordered it back then, and of course, it just launched last week, as we mentioned. But what is Stadia? It's cloud-based gaming, which on the surface sounds like, well, lots of games have cloud saves, and you can go from your house to your friend's house and load up the same thing because the cloud
There's some stuff on the
saves.
Switch too, right? Or
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Switch. Okay.
But that's not what Stadia is. Stadia doesn't use a console. It doesn't use your own computer necessarily. It's actually streaming the game itself from the cloud to you. So from a video perspective, you are viewing the game as essentially a stream and then using your controller to control it. These controllers, the Stadia controllers, connect directly to your own Wi-Fi and send everything out to the cloud, and then you're consuming the video back.
Exactly, because it's independent, right, between what you're
Exactly.
viewing on your screen. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can use a smart TV, a tablet, some of the Google Pixel phones supported as well. Not a lot, not everything is supported right away, but there is in the future going to be more compatibility.
Yeah.
What shipped with the Founders Pack was the Chromecast Ultra.
Yes.
And so that one connects to your home network via Wi-Fi or Ethernet. And you want to do the Ethernet if you're going to be doing
wanna
4K
do the Ethernet.
or any kind of gameplay.
No, you
at
just
all.
want to do the Ethernet.
Yeah, you just want to
Let's
do
be
the Ethernet.
honest.
Because that's taking most of the load is that the Chromecast. And then this guy, like George said, connects via Wi-Fi.
Now, you can also play in your Chrome browser on any computer.
That's
PC,
right.
Mac, but it has to be Chrome. It can't be any other browser. It must be Chrome. And you can connect to your computer over USB with the controller and use it that way.
And you can also use other controllers too.
You could use an Xbox controller, basically anything that computer will recognize as a gamepad, you can use.
I was using the keyboard earlier.
You can do that
and
too.
That was
Some
hard.
games will take keyboard mouse
Yeah.
input as well. And I played around with that myself the other day with one of the games, and it was a disaster trying to use keyboard mouse. Not great.
Yeah, no, not a great experience.
So that's basically it. The interesting thing is it's, you know, to simplify it, it's supposed to be the console-less console.
That's right. Well, because one of the pain points with consoles, you have this box in your house, it's expensive, right?
And 3 years later, it's something else.
Exactly. Now Google is housing that technology. They're already keeping their data centers up to date.
Of course.
They're doing all these upgrades. They're putting in this top-of-the-line hardware into the actual data centers.
Yeah, they're leveraging infrastructure they already have in order to enable this.
Exactly.
So is this the future of gaming? I don't know. I mean, from a technology perspective, I think it actually could be. I don't know that Google Stadia is, and certainly we're going to get into some of the details here.
Well, and even Stadia itself is plural for stadium.
Yes.
And so one of the talking points from Google is the fact that they see this not just as a gaming platform, but also a spectator platform.
Yeah.
So you can go onto the Stadia account, like not right now.
Not right now,
but
in theory.
In the future, you'll be able to stream from Stadia. And because you're in the same data center as YouTube,
yes,
you're going straight to YouTube like it's on a fiber line. So you're not having to put your content up. Like you have to generate
you don't
it,
have
put
to
it up, bring it back down.
You don't have to render it. You don't have to do any of that.
Exactly. It's going right in. And even some of the developer SDKs that are coming out allow you to pull that content and have it stripped of any information, so you can drop that into another gameplay. You can have it reflected somewhere in there, and that's just all from Google itself.
So of course, one of the big things people consider when they're looking at a game console is how does it look? You know, is it going to give me 4K? You know, so on. You know, that race between, you know, Microsoft and Sony and not so much Nintendo, but those guys the past few years have been about who's going to get the first 4K console out, who's going to do this. In theory, given enough bandwidth, Stadia is capable of 4K up to 60 frames per second with HDR.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have actually seen that result yet. But in theory, that's there, and they say that down the road, it is entirely possible that you could get to 8K and higher frame rates.
At 120.
So yeah. So
if you have the right bandwidth, that is going to be smooth and just gorgeous. We have to have the right monitor.
Considering the bandwidth that Stadia already eats, that would be, I don't even want to do the math. No. But that is actually a great point, talking about bandwidth. This is using a lot of download bandwidth, a lot.
Upload is minimal.
Upload is minimal.
Because you're only just uploading these really short commands, right? It's
but download is huge. If you do not have an unlimited internet connection, do not attempt to use Stadia. You will blow through your limit in about 30 minutes. Like it's crazy.
Isn't 1080 like 100 megabytes per second or 100 megabytes per minute? I remember like it was
it's 100 meg per minute. Like you know, if someone's playing it for a day on a Saturday and you only have like a couple of gig cap, you're going to blow through it, and that's not obviously a wise decision to make.
Now I do have some of the specs. I don't really understand a lot of the specs around here.
Yeah, and a lot of these aren't that important, but yeah.
Now, Stadia is built off of a Linux platform, so Stadia is running off of Linux, and they're using Vulkan as their graphics API, so some of our viewers might be familiar with that platform. It's a really powerful platform, and it does allow some crossover with different development tools and whatnot. Now, the computers themselves, they're running, what is it, like an Intel x86? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
probably an Intel, you know, server-based CPU at actually fairly low clock rates, but it's probably super efficient considering that they're running on Linux.
And 16 gigs of RAM is good for this platform.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it doesn't really matter for that. The main thing here is that they are using AMD GPUs based on the Vega architecture, which there's a range of different AMD chips that do that.
They have a custom Vega architecture
Yeah,
as well
they've modified it. And that's doing the actual rendering and getting the stream out to you, essentially. It's using extremely high bandwidth memory, which is probably where they customized it from the normal off-the-shelf Vegas you can buy, is to really crank up the video memory on those cards and make sure that it's giving them a lot. And the rest of it, you know, is pretty average stuff, really. Nothing too crazy.
But when you have it in that environment, they're
Right,
maintaining it, they're taking care
massive
of it.
cluster of these things that are going to spin up and down based on demand. So, yeah.
And of course, like we mentioned, Google already has this framework, and that's what really kind of gives them the advantage at this point, is the fact that Google's already there. They've already got these server farms all over the world.
Yes.
So depending on where you are likely very close to
Hopefully.
Google. Yeah, very, very close, hopefully, to a server farm. Now, some of the numbers, you have to have like a minimum 10 megs per second. That'll get you a good 720 signal with stereo.
Yeah, and this is your download speeds.
Yeah, sorry, this
10
is your
meg
download
down.
speed.
So again,
They don't even talk about upload requirements.
no, they don't,
because
it's pretty minimal. But again, right away off the top, you can see with a 10 meg minimum download requirement, and it needs to be stable, and it needs to be low latency.
So high ping.
Basically
stable connection.
means anyone outside, at least here in Canada, that means pretty much nobody in a rural area is really going to effectively use Stadia. Let's be honest.
Now, I have been able to use it.
You have been able to, but it's a bit.
It's a little bit sketchy.
dicey.
Our connection comes in. It's a PoE connection.
Yeah.
So we actually have a dish on the side of our house that is just a PoE direct line on the island that we're on. It goes to another tower, and then that feeds out through another.
So you're
pipe,
using wireless, which is usually lower latency, a little bit more stable. But for example, my parents live out in the country and they're on satellite. There is no way Stadia would work on a satellite connection. No chance. The latency required and the speeds required, never mind, those are always capped. So,
well, and you're paying. Yeah, you're going to be paying for that extra
exactly.
bandwidth, right?
So if you really want to do it, let's be honest, no one's going to game at less than 1080p these days. You need a minimum of 20 megabit download speed. And then if you are wanting to get into the 4K stuff, they're recommending 30 plus.
Well, and 20 will get you into that 1080 bracket.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have 5.1.
Exactly. You want a little,
surround
yeah. I played with it at home. My connection is well above any of their minimum recommended. And I had no problem at all at 1080. It was super smooth and everything was great.
Cool.
But I guess some of the things we should point out there, and because we mentioned that one of the ways you can view it or use it is through Chromecast, which is what we were doing earlier when you guys tuned in. Chromecast, of course, is normally a Wi-Fi type device. The Chromecast Ultra that they provided in the Founders Pack and the premium version you can buy now has the option for Ethernet. When we were playing around with it, testing it the other day on Wi-Fi in here, it was brutal.
It was weak, and it was okay when I was by myself in the room with one controller. I didn't have my phone with me, which I think also impacted it.
We both had phones. We
both
had
had
a
our
couple of
phones.
controllers, and obviously we're here in
tanked
the office. Things change. Whereas my Wi-Fi at home has been fine. So it's it's a big question mark if you're going to try to do it over Wi-Fi. As we've talked about many times in the show, for stream creation, for example, Wi-Fi can be risky because it's unpredictable. It goes up and down.
Now we have a comment from Kim. She's saying how in Denmark they have lightning fast internet, 100 megabytes per second, and it's probably pretty cheap as well.
Probably, yeah. Denmark, it's a first world country. Here in Canada, we have third world internet. So.
That's right. Well, because we're building it off of a very old infrastructure.
Yeah.
Whereas, countries like Denmark, it's a smaller country, so they can upgrade all that material. Yeah. Not knocking Denmark at all.
No, not at all.
Definitely, we're just very jealous.
Honestly, again, it's something that we can rant about maybe on another show. But in terms of speeds, Canada actually ranks somewhere in the middle of the pack of Western nations, but the price we pay for it is the worst in the world. So
super high.
Yay,
hopefully, there's some initiatives from the government. They're going to try to
that's
help
not
us
going to
out.
do anything.
We'll see what happens. But that's a whole other rabbit hole. So as George mentioned, the Chromecast Ultra does come with an additional, it's not an adapter, but it's the power adapter.
It's actually a really cool way of doing it, because for anyone who's played with a Chromecast before, they're very small. They're actually the only thing I use at home for consuming content on TVs. I have multiple of them.
Well, you power it from the USB port that's already on the back of your TV.
Or from something else, or
or
whatever.
else, right?
And in this case, the one that comes with the Ultra, there's a power brick that plugs into the wall, and then a USB cable that goes out. The Ethernet jack is on the power brick, which means you don't have to run Ethernet all the way up the back of your TV. You just have to run the power.
Yeah, one cable.
Which is very small because it's just USB. And then you could have the power supply down on the floor, run the Ethernet along the floorboard, make it all disappear and invisible. So that's very cool. And of course, if your Wi-Fi is strong enough, you don't even need to use the Ethernet at all.
That's right. The Ethernet is for those folks that have the router maybe on the other end of the house. It's not right in your
Yeah, I
entertainment
don't.
center.
Opposite end of the house.
If you want to do anything 4K, I think you do have to have that Ethernet.
I would
That's
highly
one of the
recommend it,
requirements.
if possible, no matter what, just for stability. So is Google Stadia the only streaming game platform out there today?
No, and they're not really even that new to the market per se. Like, it's still a small market.
Yeah.
But there are a few other folks that are in. So OnLive was, I believe, the first one.
Yeah.
And so they had a very similar model where they're hosting everything in their servers, and they actually would give you an adapter. So it's a
Yes.
physical piece of hardware that you'd have in your house,
Yeah.
and that one would be hardwired on, connected to your TV, and you would play through there.
Right.
There's also some gameplay available through computers, and you can use the controller. PlayStation Now, obviously, a little bit bigger. Sony
system, yeah.
Xbox is getting into the market.
Yeah.
And Gakai is this other one.
I don't know that
And,
one.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it either. It's actually been purchased by Sony.
Right.
So
And I
Sony's kind
know-
of brought it into the fold.
And I know Steam has done it, not necessarily from a cloud perspective, but sort of a local area network, from your more, if you want to play in bed on your laptop instead of on your gaming computer in the office. And so it's definitely
you port
not,
it through.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a new concept to stream a game. What I find super interesting is that, like you say, with OnLive, things like that, there was a little more physical hardware required at your premise. And with Stadia, Google is attempting to remove that from the equation. I mean, you can, if you own a Pixel 4 smartphone, a Google Pixel 4, you can actually play directly on the Pixel 4 with this controller, and you don't need anything else. Obviously, everyone has a laptop with Chrome on it, including a Chromebook.
Yep.
The cheapest of laptops on the market would work, because you're not doing any rendering locally. If you can watch a YouTube video, you can theoretically play Stadia.
Exactly. I was chatting with our product manager earlier, and that was his question. Was, okay, well, why don't I just load up Steam on my laptop? He has a Alienware like mega super
Exactly,
gaming laptop, so
exactly.
of course you can run it on there.
Yeah.
But you just need a Chromebook, and Chromebooks you can get one of those for like
200
150,
bucks.
200 bucks.
Go buy an
right?
open
So-
box one at Best Buy for 150 bucks.
Exactly.
Like, it's
Take
nothing.
one from your kid.
I mean, sometimes they give them away for free during different promos at Rogers or Bell or whoever. So, I mean, there's a lot of, and of course, even if you just have a regular computer, and again, I'll always take the opportunity to take a shot at Apple people, but there aren't really many games that are built to run on Mac OS. This doesn't matter. It's platform agnostic. It doesn't care whether you're using a MacBook or a PC, because you're just using a Chrome browser. So that has a lot of advantages to it.
It does. And in the future, as they roll out more platforms, you'll be able to connect to just about anything.
Exactly.
Like you mentioned.
Exactly. They are planning, and I actually read this morning, one of those like reading the news while I'm getting ready in the morning.
Yeah, we knew what you were doing when you were
Someone actually had already discovered you can play Stadia on any Android smartphone if you root your phone.
Oh, okay.
So if you root it, you can unlock it, so it'll work on any Android phone.
Sweet. And then you just plug it in with
Yeah,
a USB
exactly.
dongle or something?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
cool.
So Google has enforced Pixel 4 for now. They've said they'll open it up, but apparently if you root your phone, you can go deeper. I'm not sure I'd recommend that, but because who knows, mileage may vary.
If you can do it, you can hack it, right?
Exactly.
All right, well, now let's start talking about the games, but I
Yeah.
think while we talk about the games, we should play. We want to play a
Maybe,
little bit?
and
You wanna
when
get
we
into it?
talk into the games much earlier, Linda pointed out in chat, like any system, they live and die, based on the titles that they have. And that's a fair point. There's been many failed consoles over the years simply because they didn't have the library of content
Yeah, that's right.
to bring in the viewers. And that potentially is one of the risks of Stadia.
I would hope that it doesn't go into the Google graveyard
Right.
of projects, but really for $150,
Yeah,
if it
well,
lasts a couple of
exactly.
years. that's not so
Exactly.
bad.
And actually, you know what? This controller is pretty nice. I kind of like it. And you can use it outside of Stadia over USB.
That's right.
So I plugged it into my computer at home and was playing around with it that way as well. Not all games understand what it is, and you have to custom map everything, which is a bit annoying, but that'll get sorted out. People will build profiles for it. Microsoft will do an update, whatever.
They'll figure it out.
So that's no big deal. So where are we? I'm going to turn my controller on here.
All right, so I want to show you just how easy it is to get this launched up. Michael, if you could take us to the Chromecast layout.
Yeah.
And we'll just spin around here. Now, it's really simple. You just fire up your controller. Now, turn it on. You just have to press the...
Press and hold. It turns on. It vibrates, so you know.
Exactly.
And we've paired these before, so it came up right away.
Did you get in
Probably
already?
as mine, yeah.
Yeah, so you're controlling it now.
But if it hadn't been paired before, on the Chromecast screen, once you've added it to your account,
Camera on this side too.
it pops up with a little series of buttons that you can enter in order to pair your Wi-Fi controller to the cloud, and then it knows that it has to go to this. So when you first initially set it up, you have to use your phone and the app on your phone,
The accompanying app.
to sort of tie all the different pieces together. But once that part is done, which honestly is not hard, but once that part is done, continuing to pair things and move back and forth, super easy. Super easy.
Hit the thing, we'll load the game.
All right, we'll load the game.
Now, I set it up initially here, and then I
Yeah.
took it home and I was using it, and then I brought it back here again. No problems. Super seamless going from one Wi-Fi connection
Because it's
to
based
another.
on an account. It's basically based on your Google account, right? And as anybody who uses Google account knows, those are so portable. You can just, it's so easy. So that's what makes it so easy in Chrome. So it makes it so easy with a Chromecast, since your Google account is linked to Google Home, Chromecast is linked to Google Home.
Exactly.
So all these pieces make it super, super easy. Now Cameron
Google's
and
already
I,
got all this infrastructure set up.
exactly,
right? Like-
exactly. I did read some iPhone users who were complaining in some other reviews, but those were people who didn't own anything else in the environment to use Google Home. So yeah, it might be a little weird if that's you, but I have a Google Home speaker at home. I have, now that I have the Chromecast Ultra, I've owned 4 Chromecasts.
So we already had the Chromecast as well. So
exactly. So
this
this was pretty, pretty normal for me. What is it to go over here?
Yeah, go to race, we'll go to the party mode. So we were playing around a little bit with this. This is the only one that we can use locally.
Yeah, you can join. Press A to join.
It'll be in.
Press A to join.
My
Maybe you didn't pair,
controller's vibrating.
but that's okay. We get to show you how we can do this. So if
Hey, that's
since his didn't show up, we can click on it. We can go into this, and now you can see the code that Cameron has to put in, and it should pair his controller as the second controller. Hopefully. Is yours even turned on right now? Yeah. There you go.
There we go.
So now we can see that we have the 2 different controllers. It even shows you pictures of the color so that you know which they are.
Clearly white.
Cameron's is actually the special Founders Edition controller, limited release. Yeah.
Bikeinator.
I'm going with Leroy Bikins.
I'm sure someone gets that reference on here.
Hopefully. If they don't, get out.
Now, we'll talk about a little bit about the games that are available now, just while we're getting loaded up.
Yeah.
So initially, the service launched with 22 games.
Yeah, not all of them are things you might want to play.
Nope.
But launched with 22 games, and they claim that there are 19 more coming by the end of
That's
the year.
right, before the end of the year.
So one of the things to keep in mind, though, is that we chose a hard track. That was probably a bad idea. Oh, this is going to be a bad one.
Now, as part of the Pro account, I think we mentioned this before, you do get access to some titles for free.
Yeah, so one thing to note is that Stadia is not Netflix.
It is not Netflix.
You don't just get a blanket single subscription fee access to anything kind of design. You, oh, come on, I made that. You basically have the option of either buying the games individually, or when you have the Stadia Pro account, which is a monthly subscription, oh man, you get a couple of games every month for free.
That's right.
So for example, part of the launch and part of the Founders Edition was you got Destiny 2, which is a semi-popular kind of shooter RPG-ish kind of game.
Well, and for Destiny 2, there's a lot of content included.
No, I screwed that
And
up.
so you get 2 years of that content
Yes.
with that subscription.
And
with
then you
that title.
also got the Shadow Samurai fighting game, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of Mortal Kombat-y,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
button masher.
Yeah. what's coming next month for the pro users is going to be Farm Simulator, which is actually super popular before we knock it. It's crazy popular, as well as Tomb Raider, one of the Tomb Raider editions. Oh, this is the one we did before?
Oh, this one was so hard.
Oh, man. Ah! Did you make that by fluke?
I think you got up there by fluke.
I think you did.
Now, obviously, that was one of the big complaints from reviews online so far. Oh, there's not enough titles. Oh, you promised us all these titles initially.
Yeah.
There's a couple of titles that were going to be initially, we're going to be exclusive to Stadia.
Do some
and
flips.
It turns out
Oh,
that
you see that
maybe they
landing?
won't be as exclusive as they had intended. Maybe that's the developers being a little bit afraid of the adoption.
Yeah, and so are there enough titles right now? Probably not. Are there quality titles right now? Yes. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 is on there. That's a massive game right now.
Yeah, I think that'll be my next download. Will be Redemption 2.
There's Borderlands 3 is coming by the end of the year, or so they say.
That'll be very popular.
That'll be hugely popular. That's a very recently launched title. So there's some good stuff coming for sure. But yeah, you either have to buy them individually, which if you have a pro account, you get a discount on some of them, but not on all, or you can get the free ones, per month. Trials, and we got this one because Trials is it's fun.
It's a fun game. It's a good party game. Now, what I'd like to do is after we start this one, I want to see how easily we can transition this.
Oof,
So
okay.
we haven't actually tried this yet.
No.
But in theory, you should be able to
Oh, this is a Scottish one, yeah.
Is that your Scottish accent?
Yeah, it's terrible, I know. I'm not Scottish.
All right, I think you have to pause.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to turn back around. Michael, if you could just take us back to the main layout for a moment. What we're going to do is reconnect. So we've got our hard wires going. We're going to connect on here. Going to hit play on this one.
So one of the interesting things I'll point out,
I mentioned laptop, Michael, please.
I mentioned USB. It is actually just a USB-C connection. So it basically means...
Whoa, look at that.
Whoa.
That worked. That worked?
Still there? Maybe? Maybe
Controller's not working.
Mac didn't quite understand it.
Well, we're on here, but the controller hit the Google.
I did, and it's bringing me up in the back.
No.
Interesting. Maybe I need to unlink and turn off my controller.
Okay, maybe.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Oh, glitched.
Glitched out. I did notice some glitching when we were playing on the big screen.
Oh, and I think it got mega confused after we both disconnected.
Yeah, okay. So we're running a little bit long. So let's just go back to the main layout. Now let's quickly talk about some of the features.
In theory, you can transition, guys.
Yeah, exactly. In theory, you can transition. I think that we were asking a lot of that particular transition because it wasn't quite matching what we were looking to do.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. So the games, again, they have more coming. We'll see what ends up happening down the line. It's not a single, pay and you get everything scenario like a Netflix at all.
And that would be cool. And that was kind of my assumption.
And I think maybe with certain games, and certainly with Pro, like for example, this month you got, Destiny and you got whatever. You continue to have those even next month when they release new ones under Pro. So even if you never buy an individual game, like I noticed that, I don't know if it's the same version, but Farm Simulator is currently on the store, but it's going to be part of Pro next month. So if you bought it now and it is the same version, that would be a mistake. And you kind of carry those forward. So you could build up, if you sign up for the Pro account, which is about $10 a month, your library would essentially naturally grow by about 2 games every month. So that could be interesting for people.
One thing I was trying to
interested
find
in the
out, and it
subscription.
wasn't clear just in the FAQs, was if you are a Pro user and then you cancel it, do you lose those games you had in Pro? That wasn't super clear.
No, some people said yes, some people said no.
Yeah,
so it was
that
kind
wasn't
of
super clear yet.
Yeah.
Now, some of the missing features that had us very excited initially, and they are going to get rolled out eventually. The first one was the state share.
State share, yes.
Now, state share was very cool. That's where you can actually send like a link of your current state within that game, and you could send it to someone, and they'll just continue playing right where you left off. Obviously, that's something that developers have to include in their gameplay. Something has to be
Absolutely.
coded. So I would think that it's probably why it's not a feature.
That one
quite
might
yet.
take a while. The other one that actually I was really interested in is crowd play.
And crowdplay is very cool.
Now
That's
this
very, very
ties
cool.
together with the fact that they don't have the actual ability to live stream yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, that's supposed to come later. But crowd play tied in with that, so that if you're live streaming on YouTube, there would be a button for your viewers to click to queue up with you.
And not live streaming on YouTube like we are right now.
No, no, no.
That's live streaming on YouTube using Stadia's API
Yes.
or using their interface.
Whatever it looks like when it's done.
Exactly. And the demo that they had from Google initially was with NBA 2K.
Yeah.
So they had an NBA 2K play going. It was one of the content creators was hosting that stream. And then you could actually get in line and wait to play.
Exactly.
And then once it was your turn, you'd have the option to confirm.
Right.
And you transition from YouTube right into Stadia.
And depending on the game, that could be super interesting. Like we were just playing Trials, that supports up to 4 players. If I was streaming that by myself, 3 other viewers could join me.
Yeah.
Grid, a racing game that's on there already, that supports up to 40 simultaneous players. So that type of interaction as a content creator could be super cool. It could be super trolly and stream snipey, but it could be really cool too.
Well, and those things kind of level out eventually.
They do.
I did have family sharing on the list. Now, I wrote this breakdown a little bit earlier in the week, and I was looking at it just in the settings, and I think that family sharing is actually a component now.
Yes.
Which makes sense, because that is...
It was just rolled out.
Yeah, and that's like the number one gripe is like,
Yeah.
hey, I paid for this and it's not working, or I paid for this and the title is coming out
Yeah.
as pro, so they're actually refunding some money. So I think this is super important, because Google was just saying, if your kid buys this title on their Google account, then you have to buy it twice.
Right.
So you don't
Exactly.
get it. So now they're actually rolling that.
Yeah,
family
so the
sharing.
family share thing as one master Google
Exactly.
account can share things between
So I buy
those
the
subs.
title and then I can share it amongst all the
Exactly,
kids,
if they have their separate accounts.
Yeah, exactly. Which they do, because we
Yeah.
applied for Nexus and
Exactly.
have an email address for that, which is
Right.
insane.
The other one is the Stream Connect, and that would be to just view someone else's game.
Mm-hmm.
So your friends list, if you want to, I log into Stadia, I see in my friends list that Cameron is playing Destiny, I could be like, oh, what's happening? I could log in and kind of view his stream. So it's almost like a private live stream kind of thing in a way, based on your friends list. And
Well,
of
and
course there are full friends lists, so you can add people to the party and do all these other kind of things. So
Stream Connect was another one that's going to be really dependent on the developers for these games to include, because depending on what you're doing, I might not want to share some of the private information that I would see during that stream.
Exactly.
So you would get a stripped down version of that feed, maybe just the feed with the life counter, maybe a map, but it wouldn't be login information or username or other stuff that might be critical or allow cheating.
Exactly. So one feature that was missing at launch but was added a couple of days ago was the Buddy Pass. And the Buddy Pass was something that the Founders Edition, that's me and Cameron, maybe nobody else. No, the Founders Edition did sell out, but they never said what those numbers were.
Yeah.
Founders Edition people got a Buddy Pass that they could give to another Stadia user who was a non-Founders Edition or non-Pro subscriber, to give that person 3 months of Pro for free. That's also where the questions of, if you buy things under Pro, do you get to keep them? And I believe the answer, because of this Buddy Pass system, will be yes.
You'd think so.
I think
yeah,
so.
You'd think so.
So
And we do have an extra one.
we have a Buddy Pass that
right.
we want to give away to our viewers. So if you are a Stadia user or are thinking about it and are like in another tab signing up for Stadia right now, let us
Been
know.
inspired by the show.
Put your name in the hat, if you will.
That's right.
And we're going to pick a winner. We would need a Gmail address or a Stadia user name. And then we
Well,
can,
I think the best way to do it, and we probably should have talked about this before, is if you throw your comment in. So if you're watching this video on the live chat right now, if you are interested in a Buddy Pass, if you're the first one to make that comment in the live chat, then I will send you a direct message just through YouTube's platform.
I'm watching.
And then, of course, we'll get in touch, then we can share that key
But
with
of course,
you.
if you're not planning on being a Stadia user, this will be completely useless to you. So.
It will be, and we'd ask that like you either are already on and you're interested, or you want to get on.
Yeah. So while we wait for some of that, I'm going to take a look at some of the chat that we had. We had a couple people watching on Facebook. Jacob was asking some questions about the pearls. Some of our colleagues answered that in chat, so I hope that helps you, Jacob. Ken was just commenting. He's watching from Northern California. Welcome, Ken. Hello. A lot of people on the YouTube side saying hi. Linda saying hi. Tim Trott saying hi. Kim, of course, saying hi. We mentioned one of her questions earlier. And Jonathan Patterson is saying, would you recommend it? Maybe we'll get to that as a conclusion. And Danny Grizzle, video games. We should wean future generations off this kind of addiction. Tapering off like heroin would be a start. Danny, that ship has sailed. Video gaming is larger than Hollywood. It's not going anywhere. It's only getting bigger. Sorry, my friend, but
same with heroin too.
Well, probably true.
Only bigger.
But no, at this point, video games are the largest entertainment industry, sole industry on the planet, and there's no going back.
The NBA 2K draft is already starting to hedge up on the real NBA draft in popularity.
That ship has long sailed. It is the primary source of entertainment for everyone demographic in their early 40s all the way through to kids that are 4 years old. And so, sorry, tough.
One thing too, obviously with any platform like this, is that you want to make sure that it's enjoyed and not over-enjoyed. There are some really good options within Stadia that I read about, I haven't seen them, where there's parental controls. So for those kids that count on Stadia, you do have complete control over that. You can limit the amount of hours, you can limit access, limit titles. So there are some good workings on that.
Yeah. So people are throwing some things in there.
So Kim, is that a yes? Like,
I think
yes?
that's a yes.
All right, so Kim,
I don't know if, Linda, that was a yes or a no.
I think that's a pass.
Okay, I'm going to go with no.
Or is she saying pass like she wants the buddy
exactly,
pass?
but she's clarifying, saying no.
Confusing.
No. So that's fine. But it sounds like Kim's in, and if no one else says anything, well, that's going to be a pretty easy win for Kim.
So Kim, we'll be in touch.
Yeah,
I'll contact you just through your contact information available on YouTube.
Yeah, and maybe if you get set up, maybe next time we'll have you join us on something, because we'll just add you to Cameron's
put you on the friends list.
Yeah. So we claimed this as a review.
Yeah.
So what is the bottom line? This Founders Edition, as well as the Premium Edition you can buy now, was $169 Canadian, about $150 US-ish.
Well, it came with a $120 Chromecast.
The Chromecast Ultra is $100 by itself.
So.
The controller they sold separately for about $60, $70. So you were getting that exactly. You weren't getting a discount, but you were getting 3 months of Pro for free plus the Buddy Pass. So a couple of games for free as part of that as well, and ongoing discounts as part of Pro. Would I recommend it? I'm honestly not sure yet.
Okay. Need some more time to think about it?
I think the system is cool in theory. I haven't spent enough time with it in practice to know whether or not it's stable enough to really say it's a good idea.
That's fair.
I'm a big fan of Chromecasts, so I love the idea that it's integrated like that. This controller is honestly one of the better controllers I've seen out there. Like, it's super solid, it's very comfortable, the texture on the underside is nice, it works extremely well.
Well, the connectivity into the platform is really
cool.
easy.
So I like that. I think the controller is great. So, you know, there's some good stuff there. The titles are a little bit lacking. I think we need to see more traditional console type titles.
Though, right? It's the early phase,
but
we're just starting.
You know, my entire life I've been a PC gamer. I'm never going to play a shooter on a console with a gamepad. That's never going to happen.
Fair.
So I'm never going to buy Borderlands. I'm never realistically going to play Destiny very much through this. I'm not going to, you know, do things like that. Trials and other more traditional, very console-oriented games, those are the things I love because they're party-oriented games, driving games, racing games. So if they get a lot more of that type of content, absolutely I could see it.
Smash Brothers on there, you'd be
exactly. I could see it being fantastic for that kind of stuff. So that would be super
that would be cool too if there is
Rocket
some crossover.
League, some
crossover
on there.
platforms,
oh,
right?
Man, yeah.
Because it's Google. They're not Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft. I think that we will see maybe some crossover titles. Now, I absolutely would recommend it. I think if you're someone that doesn't want to invest into a big streaming platform, if you maybe want to play in different locations.
And it becomes multi-use, right?
It does,
because
yeah, it does.
it's, again, you can use this on your computer, you can use it on the Chromecast. The Chromecast itself becomes multi-use because you can use anything else through it, like Netflix and YouTube and everything else, to make a dumb TV a smart TV. The Chromecast solves that.
Exactly.
We use them here for presentation sharing all the time.
Yeah,
Like
we have one in every single conference room.
So there's super useful devices on their own. So I think because of that, that would be my only realistic suggestion to why it might be worth it right now, is that if you're actually going to use some of the other multifaceted stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I would like to experiment with trying it out in the wild. So maybe on the next business trip, just throw the Chromecast into the bag, bring this. Well, you have your laptop, right? Yeah, good point. Our product manager, again, was asking, oh, but I can play all these games on the plane. If we had a high enough bandwidth on the plane,
you
play?
won't.
No,
you definitely won't.
That's not gonna work.
For me, one of the nice things is that because this is USB-C, this is the exact same cable I use to charge my phone, so I don't even need to use multiple USB cables. So it's very Google.
All right. Well, I think we've gone a little bit over. So, final thoughts. I like it.
I do like
still
it.
Needs a little bit more time.
I do like it, but I'm reserving final judgment to see what happens in the next few months.
Because now I'm looking at it, I want to figure out what this is going to do.
It's a headphone jack.
So there's a headphone jack.
There is a
on
mic.
The bottom.
The mic is right there.
Yeah.
In theory, I don't think it's enabled
that.
yet, but there will be live chat through here.
So you can hear it in the headphones and also get.
And the mic is here to
You also
chat.
get something on the TV maybe for some more.
Yeah. So I don't think that's fully enabled yet, but that's interesting. So
all right, looks like Kim is satisfied with her win. We got a thumbs up and a nice thumbs up.
So if you guys have thoughts, of course, throw them into the chat. And anything else you have curious about Live at Epiphan, send us an email. live@epiphan.com or whatever.
Yeah, that's
it
a
is.
real email address. live@epiphan.com. You will get a support ticket thing back. I think it's the same for the info@epiphan.com, but I'm not sure.
Exactly.
So if you do have any questions, if you have something, you're watching this video as a VOD, not on the live chat, hit us up. We do watch the comments.
And of course, like, subscribe, follow, do all those things. Today we were live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch
TV.
simultaneously.
Look at all these Twitch comments.
So like and follow us on all those platforms. And of course, we will see you next week when our topic is
the fundamentals of live streaming with audio. Audio for live streaming.
So much more technical.
Audio
this week.
fundamentals for live streaming.
Yes, and I believe we're putting up a post in our forums about that topic ahead of time, so people can chime in, share some thoughts in advance. So check out our community forums, which you can get to on our website, epiphan.com. Just up at the top, you'll see a community forums link. Jump in there.
Should throw it on Facebook too.
We can put a link up there.
There's some social stuff in YouTube.
We'll
Maybe we should try using that. I don't know how that works.
Social media.
All right. Well,
anyway,
I'm going to turn this back on so we can play some more.
And happy Thanksgiving to all our
Happy
American viewers.
Thanksgiving.
And we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.